Peace and love, y'all. Welcome to a brand called Me. I am your host, Chris Kazi Roll, and on this show, you will learn how to build your personal brand, become your best self, and make a living doing what you love. Let's get this party started. Peace and love, y'all. We are back with another episode. Today, we are going to take a journey down the evolution of a brand called Tonya. So I know all of the journey, but I don't know the behind the scenes. So I want to start at the beginning. Do you see yourself as a brand?
Absolutely.
Okay. When people think of the brand called Tonya, what words come to mind?
Award-winning financial educator, entrepreneur, I would say mother, and change agent.
Do you see your personal brand separate from your professional brand? Are they?
I do, and I was intentional about doing that. So I have my parent company that has my financial education company, and then my personal brand is housed under that as well. And then my government contracting company is also housed underneath that. But my personal brand, I created it separately because I knew that as a financial educator, there were just things about my journey that I couldn't expect my audience to be interested in. But I still felt like I wanted to share, like becoming a mother. While there are financial elements to becoming a mother, I knew my audience would be like, look, girl, we came here for budgets and credit. We ain't come here for like postpartum care. And so I wanted to create a personal brand specifically so that I could share more of my story for the people who wanted to know what it was like or what it looked like for someone to build and exist. I feel like exist as a businesswoman.
One word that I've seen in terms of your brand is like a lot of different transitions.
Yeah.
You know, from a distance, I admire you're following a curiosity, you're following a mission. And so just if you were to wheel all the way back and say you're starting on this journey, where do you feel like it started from?
I would say in college actually. Yeah. So it's funny because as a kid, I would cut out, like I would put things like from like Black Enterprise on my vision board and everything. But I felt like I was conflicted because I knew I wanted to make a good living and make money, but I also knew I wanted to work in communities. And I was like, I can't be a teacher because teachers don't make enough. Right. So I think that it started with when I was in college, my undergrad degree is public administration. So I was working in communities. I was working on city plans. So I did a lot of city plans throughout Miami. And I was doing that work, working in communities, and I felt like I started to create a brand as a change agent then. Moved to New York City. I actually moved there for music. I wanted to be a music supervisor, but I was still working in nonprofit. Right. And I was still wanting to feed the creative side of me as well as the social good side of me. And I ended up creating My Fab Finance as a blog because I was working with low-income women throughout Brooklyn and realized like, oh, this is what happens if you don't get your life together. Like you could end up sharing, like living in basically an adult dorm room if you don't get your life together. So I was like, okay, I want to do social good. My social good is going to be financial education. I'm going to teach people how to improve their finances through me. Right. I didn't realize that I was going to be able to make money doing it though. Like I felt like it was like a passion project. And I started that in 2013. By 2014, I was on the cover of Black Enterprise. And I was like, oh,
the vision board.
We a thing. So and that's what was beautiful. And I think that was a full circle moment for me almost because I was like, I used to cut out Black Enterprise magazines and had no idea how it was going to happen. Wow. And this is how it's going to happen. So for me, that was like a breadcrumb from the universe. Like, all right, you're on the right path. You're on the right path. Yeah. And then started to move into financial education and still wasn't sure how I was going to monetize it. And then I got my first email from a brand that wanted to hire me to do a brand partnership. And it wasn't for my content because I'm also a writer. It wasn't for my writing content. It was for my likeness. And that's when I was like, I can get paid to be myself. Right. And so did that. And then another deal came. And another deal came. And I was like, wow, I thought I was going to be a financial educator teaching workshops. The money is actually in working with brands and being a brand myself and being a host and being a spokesperson. And so that is how it evolved. It evolved with wanting to serve communities, but realizing that I wanted to have a certain standard of living. And the communities I wanted to serve, might not be able to supplement that standard of living, but brands could supplement that.
Gotcha.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get paid to be myself.
You know what? It sounds like the lead was serving the community. Was there somebody out there where you was like, I want to be like that?
I would say one of my mentors early on was Tiffany Budgetnista. Tiffany, and this was before Tiffany's business. Tiffany. Yes, Tiffany changed my life. It was before her business really took off. And she was like, T, like, you can do well and make a good living. And I started to look at some of the things that Tiff was doing. And she started to, I remember my first speaking opportunity, she had brought me in for it. It's a Circle of Sisters in New York. And Prudential was underwriting. And she's like, send over your invoice. So I'm happy to be getting paid to speak. Right. I sent over an invoice for $500.
Yeah. She's
like, girl, that's lunch money. I was like, how much did I send?
Yeah.
She was like, build them at least for $3,500. I was like, oh my God, for an hour? And I would say the people who have inspired me the most are, I call them friend tours. It's people who are actually in my life and I can see how they move and what they do. Yeah, because I didn't want to be Susie Orman.
Gotcha.
I didn't want to be Dave Ramsey. He don't believe in debt.
Right.
I didn't want to be those people. So I would say, honestly, it was Tiffany who really inspired me to.
Gotcha. So when you were starting out, you said public administration, coming out of college, then you did nonprofit?
Yeah.
So in the nonprofit, the goal was to
create change in communities.
Now, so when you was serving the community, that seemed like that was the lead, because even though the money came afterwards, it wasn't like, all right, I'm going to make money serving the people at first.
No.
It was about the people.
I didn't know how. Honestly, Kazi, I had no idea. I was like, I really know there's a certain quality of life I want to experience. And I don't know how I can do this with my desire to help people. And I just feel like when you're aligned with your purpose and everything else, I feel like God knew who I was. God knew my heart.
You had to get,
and was like, she can do this work and she's going to be very committed to it, but let's make sure she's rewarded along the way so that she can continue to live in the manner in which she desires.
Now, growing up, family-wise, did you guys have that lifestyle, or was the desire for the lifestyle was because I didn't have it?
I definitely grew up in a stable household. So my mother and father were both career military. Oh, okay. So I definitely grew up in a household where we didn't have to worry about anything. And I feel like my parents really, watching your parents go serve the country, and my mom would like wake up from military exercises like 4 a.m. Watching their sacrifice, I was like, how can I do any less than what they've given me?
Right, yeah.
It's like, it's my responsibility to take it to the next level. Yeah. So for me, it wasn't that I don't want to go back to something that's undesirable. It's like, it's my responsibility to build on the foundation they gave me.
Yeah. And being of service, you want to be of service. So when was
without people telling me what to do.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. No, I say most entrepreneurs, that's underneath there. I don't want nobody to tell me what to do. And most of the people that I've brought on the show have been people who are brands unto themselves, but they're service people, you know, and they're led more by the service, but we also want to, we want to live nice and do well. Because
we've seen it before. We've seen the greats before us. We've seen people who were activists in our community like die dollarless. Yeah. And I was like, nah. If we got to choose,
let's go.
I'm going to go to corporate if I have to. Yeah. But I also, when I moved to New York, I read The Alchemist. Yeah. And The Alchemist like changed my life. It was when you want something bad enough, the universe conspires to help you achieve it. And I was like, okay, I want to make a good living doing something that feels good and helping people.
Gotcha. In fact, a brand called me. It's not just like a say about you. It is that a brand called me. Okay. So what was it that they saw that made them pick up the phone?
So when I decided to move into personal finance, one of the things that really impacted my confidence was that I felt like I wasn't cookie cutter. I felt like I wasn't finance ready because I didn't have an Ivy League degree. I didn't work in finance. I haven't ever worked in finance. I had 8 tattoos. I had an afro. So for me, it was like, I don't really see brands aligning to me, but that is actually why they called me, because I resonated with the audiences they wanted to connect with. And this is coming off of, 2008, we think about the recession happened in 2008. So there's a lot of distrust for financial institutions. So they need to align themselves with people who their audience would trust. And so that's why they called me, is because I also move with integrity when it comes to my audience. Like, I'm not going to, even to this day, I won't accept a brand partnership that I feel like is out of alignment with my audience's greatest good or my people's greatest good. I mean, and we had a brand that I worked with that it was on the cusp, and it taught me a lesson because I was on the fence about working with them. We worked together and we had to shut it down because they had a PR nightmare. But I know that they contacted me because of the relationship that I have with my community and the relationship I had with my community.
Talk about how culture affects a brand called Tonya.
I love you asked that. My dad was a DJ growing up. So my dad he was in the military, but my dad is from Queens, New York. My dad is a hustler. So he always had additional money coming in, and one of his additional revenue streams was he was a DJ. He was a military-based DJ. He worked for the radio station when we lived in Oklahoma. And so growing up as a kid, I would listen to my dad prepare for his DJ sets. That was my Sunday morning cartoons, is my dad spinning like Keith Murray and all these other albums. And I always had a love for music, and I wanted to figure out how I could blend finance and music. And so the First and 15th newsletter, if you notice, we will always have what I'm listening to while I'm writing it, what I'm listening to. And I didn't weave it in as much as I thought I would. Some of my speaking presentations, I was able to weave elements in. But for me, it's just, I want brands that I work with to know she is a full-bodied Black woman. Do not think you're about to get someone in here who's just going to be like whitewash. When I come in here, I am who I am. I'm going to have the conversations we need to have. And so I would say culturally, I'm always going to bring my culture to the table.
Come on.
I'm not going to shy away from it. So if we looking at scripts, I'm be like, nah.
You're not going to say, I don't talk like that.
Absolutely not. I'm like, so can we talk about, let's talk about this.
Right?
Who wrote this? Like, let's talk, like I was recently reviewing one script and they just had to have like Black. And I'm like, we know it's for us. You have me, all the you don't have to do that. But I'm always going to make sure that we're at the table if I'm in the room.
I remember being in relationships with people who said they had to do their hair a certain way in order to go into the office, or kind of change who they were. They had to dress in pantsuits and things like that. So was there a point where you might have been at that mindset and it shifted, or did you always have this mindset, I'm just going to be me no matter where I am?
Oh, no, absolutely. I feel like when I got started, there was I have to look like a financial educator to an extent. Because when I started My Fat Finance, I lived in Brooklyn.
Right.
And Brooklyn is Planet Brooklyn. And so I felt like there was still a certain level of edge to how I appeared as a financial educator. And then as my reputation and my demand started to increase, it was y'all gonna get what y'all get.
Right.
Now, I'm not necessarily gonna show up to set with a hoodie on or certain things like that, even though sometimes I might, depending on the interview. But I am at a space, and I think that you get to a space when you create a brand called you, I think you get to a space where if they want to work with you, they have to accept certain things, and then you're able to bring more of yourself to the table. So I would say that, for me, that switch probably happened about 2017. So I started My Fat Finance 2013. I would say probably about 2017. And then I have an agent.
Oh, okay.
And we had our first bidding war for me. And I was like, oh.
It doesn't change.
Y'all want,
okay.
So we're going to do what we want. Okay.
Gotcha.
And that, I feel like that when I realized that my reputation in the space afforded me the opportunity to be even more authentic.
We say your reputation always precedes you, right? So what were things that you were doing that intentionally so that you maintain a good reputation?
I'm really good at relationship building. One of the things that integrity and relationships are really important to me. And my core values are personal growth, freedom, joy, and relationships. And so for me, it was anytime I'm working with a brand partner, treat them well. And the great thing about brand partnerships is a lot of times people hop around at these different agencies. So I might work with you on behalf of Chase while you're at this agency, but then you go to another company and you guys have accounts with State Farm. But you remember how I treated you while you were working with Chase at that company. So now, as soon as you get an opportunity, you're calling me and calling my agent hey, we got this thing and we think you're really good at it. But it's not just relationships, it's showing up. And
showing up, coming there or showing up?
Showing up, when you get there, make sure you impress them. So, getting my reps in as a financial educator, when I became I decided to become a certified financial educator. I was in grad school at the time. So I was working full time. become a certified financial educator and was finishing grad school. But because I became a certified financial educator, I knew my stuff. Like in teaching, coaching people, I knew my stuff. So when they would bring me in, and then also I took public speaking classes, I took improv classes so that I can think on my feet really quickly. And so you would put me on set, and if you throwing something at me, like I'm catching it and we're one take in.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where I was also minimizing people's shoot days, budgets. They were coming in under budget because they were able to be more efficient when they were working with me.
Yeah. Laser.
So I would say that's how I built a reputation. And outside of personal finance, just making sure that I continue to do things to keep me relevant. One of my homeboys was like, "You're like the currency of finance." Because you remember at one point, Currency was like always putting out mixtapes and everything.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "You're like the currency of finance." And I was always just planting seeds.
That's dope. I know one of the things that for us all trying to figure out navigating brands is price, what to charge, and value. What are some of your learnings there?
I'll be completely transparent. There's been times where I thought they paid me more than the value I brought to the table, but I'm gonna let you pay me.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because it's not just that. And so when it comes down to thinking about your pricing as a brand, you definitely want to build a network of people you can reach out to. Just as Tiffany, like basically, it was like, I was thinking about like a basketball game when you go for the layup and they're like, get that out. Like you need somebody who's get that out of here. Like you need that person. And now even I become that person for friends in my network.
Right.
So it is having a network of people you can talk to that can give you a better understanding of what you should be charging. But if you don't have that, looking at the project, looking at the scope of work, always ask for the scope of work. Do not become so enamored by the brand that you don't ask what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Because you might be like, "Oh yeah, I'm just happy to work with y'all." And then you get it and they like, "We want you to record every day and we want this amount of content and we want on all your platforms."
Right.
So always get that scope of work. Always find out the term. So for us, we price differently based on how long you plan to use it. So when I say term of usage, so do you plan to use this for a quarter? Do you plan to use this for 6 months? Do you plan to use this for a year? Or are you trying to use this indefinitely?
Right.
And we don't allow indefinitely.
Okay, gotcha.
Like we don't allow, like you can use it for a year and then we'll renegotiate at the end of this year. Like if you want to use it longer reach. And so is this just a digital campaign? Is this a print campaign? Like, because you're not going to pay me where I think that it's just going to be an Instagram feed and I'm driving and I see my face on a billboard. So we need to be very clear on like how you intend to use this. And then the last thing I would say is what's considered a competitor. If they have competitors that they don't want you to work with, because now you're going to pay me for me not to work with other people, because now that affects my bottom line. So if I'm working for you and I'm missing out on these dollars, and how are we supposed to make this up? You got to make that gap up.
Right.
And so those are the different things that we consider, that you should consider when doing brand deals.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because sometimes, you just, like you said, enamored. I've been through it where I'm just signing and not realizing what it is.
I'm just happy to be here.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah,
and then you hear and you like, this ain't even what I thought it was, because you feel like you were undervalued. You show up so much better when you feel like they valued you. Like I show up so much differently on set when I'm like, I got exactly what I feel like I deserve, versus y'all should just be happy I showed up, because this ain't even what I normally be doing. Like you just show up differently.
Yeah.
So it is really important not to get caught up in the brands, because one thing I found is that brands are also enamored by you. When you build a brand, usually it's someone who is in that office who admires what you do, that is so excited to have you on the project. And so just as enamored, like those brands are made up of people who work for them. McDonald's is a corporation. We're excited about McDonald's, but the person who works there in the marketing department who brought you in might be like a recent college grad who's just been following your journey. They ain't got nothing to do with McDonald's. You know what I mean?
Right. Gotcha.
So we also have to separate, even though we identify as brands, the brands we work with, that's IP. Those aren't people.
Right.
So don't get caught up in it.
Yeah. Now, for those that don't know what you just said in terms of IP, what is that?
Oh, intellectual property. Your intellectual property, we have different types of capital intellectual property, especially the major brands. That's their strength. They have space. I guess they occupy space in people's minds because of their brand, their reputation. But that is what, like, they bank on, that brand recognition. So it's their intellectual property.
What would you say is your superpower?
I would say I'm quick on my feet.
Yeah.
I would say I'm quick on my feet. Yeah. And I'm genuinely curious about people and experiences. And so I think that helps with relationship building as well. It's very rare that people will, like, brands I work with will interact with me and be like, oh, we don't like her.
Okay.
It's no. And it's because I'm genuinely curious about people, but I'm also quick on my feet.
Gotcha. Every superhero Superman has kryptonite. Do you have something that's, I wouldn't say weakness, but a kryptonite or a pet peeve or something that, you don't want to be in the same room with because it zaps your energy?
I would say if someone shows up to set with a bad attitude, like, if it will throw me back, like, what's wrong with you? What happened to you today?
Gotcha.
So I would definitely say I am sensitive to other people's energy and how people show up. And usually it takes me a moment to recenter myself and observe but not become what they're displaying.
Love that.
So yeah, I would say I'm very sensitive to energy.
I felt like as a financial educator, it's very mental, but I'm feeling more heart in the brand of Tonya. Am I picking that up right? Or?
It's behavioral.
Yeah.
I would say, like, with financial, and that's the thing about personal finance. And I think even for me, when I first started, I felt like I had to be really good with numbers and everything else without understanding, like, it's behavioral. A lot of it is behavior, like how you manage your money, what you do, the decisions you make. Like, a budget is great, but if you're not spending your money properly, your behaviors aren't in alignment with your goals, then you're not going to accomplish them.
Yeah.
So I would say that, and I would say my personal brand is definitely heart. Definitely spiritual.
Oh, that's right. Because you have Tonya Rapley
in my Fat Finance.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I got you.
And I would say my personal brand is definitely more spiritual.
Yeah.
It definitely is more spiritually aligned.
I always say entrepreneurship is a relationship with the Most High. Like, you can't survive unless you start to develop a more spiritual. So was there something in your brand building or business journey that caused a shift in that?
I don't know. I just knew there are some people who teach personal finance from, like, a biblical perspective.
Yeah.
And I knew that wasn't my journey.
Yeah.
But I feel like I live my life, the way I live my life is more spiritually aligned. And so it just felt it felt natural. I don't like to do things that do not feel natural to me because then that is work at the end of the day. Yeah. And not saying I'm against hard work because what I do is still work. Like, after I finish on set, I am wiped.
Yeah.
After I finish speaking and interacting with people, I am wiped because it is an energy exchange. But it's like you choose your hard. And for me, like, things that are in alignment are worth my energy rather than things that are out of alignment.
Where would you say that discovery of, all right, I'm clear about who I am and I know what to say no to because of this work that I did?
Definitely knowing yourself, spending time getting familiar with yourself. I would say therapy was really helpful, especially in establishing what my core values were. And so I think that before I was like an energy-led person. Oh, it doesn't feel right. I don't know. Now my metric is my core values, which are joy, personal growth, freedom, and relationships. So it's like, does this bring me joy? Does this enhance my personal growth, my growth? Does this enhance my relationships? What does it align? Does it add to any of what I value? And if it doesn't, then no, we're not doing it.
Gotcha.
And then my audience I'll look at things and, like, will they benefit from this? I have faith in the knowing that there's going to be opportunities to come. So if I say no to something, that doesn't mean another opportunity isn't going to make itself available. It probably will open up the opportunity for even better opportunity. It will open the door for even better opportunity. So I have to make sure that I'm proud of associating myself with what I'm doing too. I want Karis to be like, yeah, my mom.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like all this, like, a lot of us, we do it for our kids. And there's going to be a day when I leave this earth and, God willing, Karis outlives me and Karis becomes a full-bodied adult. And he's able to look back on things that I did with pride and be like, yo, that was my mom. Like, I want that for him too. So it's not just about my audience. This is about my legacy. It's about my grandma's going to see this.
Right.
I want my grandma to be sharing on her Facebook. That's my grandbaby. I want my parents, their military comrades, to call them like, yo, we saw your daughter doing so. Yeah. I want to bring honor to my family too. So not just my audience, but the people who really help create who I am.
Is there a moment that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I think I'm proud of doing a lot of what I said I wanted to do. Like when I moved to New York, I said there were a few things I wanted to do. one of the things I wanted to be in a documentary. So I have a documentary on Netflix that I'm in. I was one of the leads, and she did that. The Black Enterprise magazine cover, like first one with Afro on Black Enterprise magazine cover, on Black Enterprise magazine. Recently, Karis.
Right.
My son, absolutely, because I was very intentional about how I became a mother.
Yeah.
And it is just like you really were intentional with the plan, and he gets to live the life that he lives because of your intentionality. And he's so happy and so peaceful and so beautiful because you made sure you were in a certain place when you brought him into this world. So definitely Karis. Yeah. And I would say recently, I just shared actually, I'm in a textbook. And so now college students are learning about my Fab Finance journey. Yeah. And I thought I wanted to be a professor, didn't become a professor, but I'm still in collegiate classrooms.
Dope.
So I'm really proud of that.
A lot of times we highlight the wins.
Oh.
But is there something along the way that was like, man, that was a big mess up? Because sometimes the best learning was there. Yeah, was there an L that was like, man, that was a big L, but I learned something very valuable from it?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the L's was a brand partnership I did. Yeah. Okay. When I left my 9-to-5 job, I had got a partnership with them that basically replaced my salary. So I was really excited about this. I was excited about the opportunity to work with Russell Simmons. There were some questions about like whether or not it was predatory for the Black community or lower income individuals. And so I still decided to do it because I was like, I can educate their audience on personal finance. I can show them how to make better decisions. And I'm coming in as an educator. Yeah. So 2 months in, we signed that deal in September. End of October, I'm in Cartagena, Colombia, taking like my first trip that I had ever taken since I started my Fab Finance. And my phone starts blowing up. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm on Twitter, and someone's like, so what do you think about the Rush Card fiasco? And I was like, and I'm like in the middle of a grocery store in Cartagena at this time. And I walk outside and I find out that they had merged all of their transactions over to a new processor. And everybody was locked out of their card. Whoa. Like no one could access their money. Yeah. So people who I know who work for the media are contacting me. So Tonya, how do you feel about the fact that grandmothers can't get their medications because of Rush Card? And I was just like, I am done. Like my audience isn't going to trust me. No other brands are going to touch me. Like I just really felt like that was the end of my career, and I had just resigned to become a full-time entrepreneur. Right. I developed an ulcer. Like I was so stressed, and I decided to cut ties with them. Yeah. And focus on. I launched my own coaching program, my own group coaching program to make up the gap of the money that I would lose, and to give myself a runway to figure out what to do next. Yeah. Yeah. So that was, I really thought my career was over. Gotcha. I was just getting started. I was like, I ain't even off the ground yet. But
so how you turned it around? Or was it not as bad as you thought it was?
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but that's how much I value my integrity. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It eventually blew over, and the company was purchased by someone else and everything else. That was definitely a personal finance L. And then you would take, as an entrepreneur, you take L's all the time. You overhire. A couple years ago, I had a staff of 12. Yeah. I was working to pay payroll. We were bringing in projects to pay people. Yeah. And they weren't justifying their expense. I was happy when I was making $500,000 a year with 3 people. Right. I was actually, my quality of life was actually better because I wasn't worried about payroll and worried about all these other things. And that's when I decided I was like, I'm gonna fall back. Yeah. Everybody else is talking about the numbers game and everything else to try to make as much money as possible. Yeah. I want the best quality of life possible. Bars. And that is, I think that can be an L too. If you do not realize that what is most important to you might be your quality of life and you're in pursuit of other things, the dollars and the vanity metrics, your life is not going to feel the way you want it to feel no matter how much money you make.
For people who want to continue to learn and who might just discover you from these episodes, how do people connect and follow you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that if you're interested in financial education, that is My Fab Finance. Full disclaimer, I don't operate the Instagram anymore. We do have a social media manager, but I still do have my hands in the day-to-day of the business. So My Fab Finance. But for me, Tonya.Rapley, that's Tonya with a O, Tonya.Rapley on all social media channels.
Boom. There you have it. Thank you for that. And see y'all next time. Peace.